Hello, this is Christine from lifemanifesting.com. So today we are going to do a collective energy reading for the upcoming lunar cycle for January 2022. We have the new moon in Capricorn on Sunday the 2nd, and then the full moon is on Monday the 17th. That's in Cancer, okay? So I'm going to do a reading for the full lunar cycle. Now, if I keep the two parts together, we'll see. We'll see how long it is, okay? So, we are going to first just look into the overall theme that'll be present or that will be highlighted with this lunar cycle, okay? And before I get started, yesterday I was painting with my youngest daughter, and the painting that I did was of like a full moon and a waterfall. So, and like it's like I hung it up in here and it just caught my attention. And so before I even pull any cards, I feel like so I've been saying how these next couple months are going to be crazy. Like, if you're somebody who has experienced the whirlwind for like November going into December, you were forewarned, because December and February are going to be like next level for a lot of people. And I think it's super important to remember that things happen as they should, and that anything being destroyed or disrupted is ripe soil, fertile soil to create and to grow something new. And in order to do that, you have to be seated in a place of creativity, which comes with insight, and also curiosity, right? Creativity and curiosity are like very childlike things. Like the energy is like innocent and childlike. So that was just a thought that I had before I pull any cards. Okay, so first I am going to, like I said, check the overall theme for this lunar cycle for January 2022. There's a blue moon in this month as well. There's another new moon at the end of January. So, like I was saying, we got the Page of Wands at the bottom of the deck. This childlike, innocent creativity and curiosity already at the bottom of the deck. But the Nine of Swords came out. And so, like I said, it's going to be very challenging mentally, okay? Also, like, just feeling very isolated, or having the inclination to be isolated, actually being isolated, right? Because we see COVID is going crazy. I wouldn't be surprised. One, there's already people that's like, I'm not leaving my house because this thing is everywhere. I wouldn't be surprised if, there was some kind of informal like isolation, because they said numerous times they're not shutting this thing down again. But I'm seeing a lot of isolation and the mental anguish that comes with isolation or feeling isolated. And how do you process that, right? I think that the Nine of Swords also, to me, like, nines are like ancestral energy. It's very quick moving energy. Like, there's a lot happening under the energy of nine, but it's also like right near the completion of a cycle, right? So it's like it can feel like very disorienting, right? But it's actually like all of the chaos that comes with the void of being like you're right at the threshold of being able to birth something new. Okay, and this is all of the chaos and the calamity that comes before it is the energy of 9, right? And when I say chaos, I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean the quick moving high frequency energy that is present when I say chaos, right? Also, like, if you think about, I don't know how much y'all know about um fertilization, right? Like, but there's a lot that happens. Like, there's a whole lot of like like the process of an egg being fertilized by sperm is very, very intricate in and of itself. But the actual fertilization process and all of the energy and electricity and hormones and everything that is involved in that process. It's a lot. It is a lot going on. But then, you have 9 months where you germinate a baby. Well, 10 months where you germinate a baby. So I say that to say, like, when I say chaos, it's a lot of action and it may feel overwhelming. It may feel, I said overwhelming. Like, it may feel like random. It may feel, like I said, disorganized. But you have to understand all of those movements, everything that is being shaken up has a purpose, has a cause, and it is creating fertile ground for something new to grow and be birthed. So through this lunar cycle, keep that in mind, okay? And then also another thing that I want to say is that the beginning of this pandemic, we already dealt with isolation, okay? Now, I will say this might be like next level isolation. Like, you might be isolated because you fell out with family members about getting vaccinated or not getting vaccinated, right? You might have seen this pandemic fare differently, so you have a different opinion on being vaccinated, and you may see yourself like at odds with people who do not believe in taking the vaccine or the shot and getting a booster or whatever else. Maybe there's issues with people that are close to you around wearing masks. Maybe there's issues with people close to you around even going out when you test positive for COVID. Maybe there's issues around people wanting to come and visit or not want to come and visit, and you're just not aligned, right? So that may feel like it's creating separation between you and your loved ones or people that you would have around you. Also, like, we experienced at the beginning of this pandemic, like, what it's like when everybody's stuck in the house together. And some people came up with some really helpful coping skills. People like went out and bought dogs. People got a whole bunch of plants, which was really annoying because I couldn't find any pots for my plants for months. I had plants that were growing and needed new pots, but y'all done stole up all the goddamn pots because everybody wanted to go out and get a plant. So anyway, that was personal. But yeah, like, people got plants, like, people started going on walks, people was baking bread. Like, some of the content that came out from like Versus and some of the shows I was watching was bullshit, but there was some good content that came out and some good entertainment that came out during that time. Also, finding new ways to connect with people, like Zoom things and virtual classes and all of that stuff, like a lot of that, right? So this is the opportunity to maybe think back on, okay, like, what was the beginning of the pandemic like for me and my household? What worked and what didn't work? What was helpful and what was not helpful, right? Like, if you have elders in your family that live alone, maybe depending on how safe you are, to be real, like, if you're out here in these streets, don't invite your elder parents to your house. But if you're operating in a relatively safe way, it might be time to have those older relatives come and live with you so that they're not alone, right? Or maybe if you know that mentally it was difficult for you, then maybe you can, you and a friend who also like live alone can like pair up, right? And y'all might spend 1 week at one person's house, 1 week at another person's house, and then 1 week separate, or however y'all want to do it, right? So that you're not kind of stuck, you know? If you know that the pandemic kind of increased your intake of certain vices, like you drank more, you smoked more, you did more drugs, you ate more. A lot of us ate more and gained a whole lot of weight, right? A lot of us are very sedentary, right? Any of those things that kind of made you more sluggish or weighed you down more, this is an opportunity to start thinking now about strategies to address that. So just evaluating at the beginning of the pandemic, when you were isolated or when you felt isolated, what worked and what did not, what was helpful, what was not, what kind of problems and challenges arose. The kids at home doing school virtually, shit like that. Like how, like what makes sense, what makes the most sense, and then sticking to it, right? Like I'm gonna be real, like some kids did not do well. A lot of kids did not do well virtually, and expecting them to do the same exact thing that they would do in a school building on a computer did not work, okay? And if you know that that does not work for your kid, advocate for your kid. Find a way to engage them academically without boring them, right? Consider homeschool. If you have family members and you're willing to blend households to make a community, I talked about this at the beginning of the pandemic last year. Like, again, you have to assess the risk level, but maybe, you can have like a community pool, like a community homeschool. Like, okay, our kids go to the same school. This is going to be our social nucleus, right? So that you have some type of interaction, and think about ways to engage your child in a fun way. Think like Montessori school, right? Like have the kids in the kitchen while you cooking. If you're planning to grow things in this spring, in the summer, this growing season, have them researching different plants and where they should be, what type of sunlight do they get. Have them like tracking the sun to kind of see, like there's apps where you can track the sun and see which part of your yard or your space gets the most sunlight, right? So that way they can plan out your garden, right? That's math, that's science, that's research, that's communication all together. So they're still engaged, you understand, but they're not sitting in front of a computer memorizing their multiplication tables, their multiplication facts. Does that make sense? So yeah, okay. All of that from just the overall theme of this lunar cycle. So now that we have our theme, let us look into this new moon that is coming up very, very quickly on Sunday, January 2nd. Let me get some water. Okay. Separate this out. Okay. So our main focus of this new moon, okay, supportive energy of this new moon, and skills and knowledge to practice. This is interesting. Okay, let me clarify this. Let me clarify this. Un momento, por favor. Okay, let's clarify. Power, your skills and knowledge to practice or gain. Okay. What was that? Okay, so for the main focus or the manifestation of that's being highlighted with the new moon is the King of Cups. Is that focus? Okay. The supportive energy of the new moon is the Empress, which is a 3. And then, this is crazy, but skills to gain our knowledge to gain and skills to practice throughout the new moon. We got the Tower, and then that was clarified by energy. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is that this new moon will really so I see that. Let me start here. Okay, the new moon is offering a very collaborative type of support, whereas like if you have to resource yourself and tap into the supportive energy. Like it's not something that how do I say this? Because it is readily available, like it is accessible, but you have to be intentional about accessing it, right? Like accessing it. You have to be open to acknowledge the fact that you need it so that you can receive that supportive energy, so that you can be nurtured, so that you can be resourced, so that you can be grounded, so that you can have an adequate perspective of what's happening, so that you can have enough foresight to not get caught up in what's happening in the moment, while being grounded enough to respond appropriately in the moment. Does that make sense? Like you you get the big picture, and in understanding the big picture, your emotions are not being thrown all over the place. Okay? Like you're not giving into worry or fear or doubt or any of those things. However, you're perceptive enough to know when something is happening that requires action on your part. Okay? And I'm seeing that this first portion of the lunar cycle is really, really teaching you to look at these. Look at the way this looks. Oh, wait a minute. My phone's about to die. Thought it was plugged in this whole time. Let me tell you, the whole time that I have been preparing to do this reading, like things have been popping up. Just like random things have been popping up. Like I was getting dressed. This is one of my favorite shirts. I went to put it on and I saw that at some point in the past, my boobs rifted. But thankfully, it was right on a seam and I just whipped out my sewing kit, sewed it up real quick and was done, right? Like just now, I thought my phone is plugged in right now. Like the charger is plugged in, but I thought that it was charging. And then when the low battery popped up, I looked down and saw that the plug had fell out the wall, right? I had ordered food. Like I had been doing readings all night. I ordered food because my kids ate all the leftovers and some of my order was missing. And I really wanted, I really, really, really wanted what was missing, but they weren't able to get it to me. So I just took a refund, right? So I say all of that to say, as I was holding these cards up, and just to reiterate, this is about being grounded, right? Like when there's like a whole bunch of shit going on outside of you, externally, it doesn't have to lead to disruption and disorientation internally, right? You should be able to stay grounded and focused and perceptive enough to see it and to respond to it when necessary. And your mind should be clear enough, your energy field should be clear enough such that your perception doesn't throw you out of whack. You perceive it and you understand, okay, do I do something or do I just kind of sit and let it play out? And being intentional about what either of those responses are. Like if you're letting it play out, you're not being passive, right? You're honoring the ebbs and flows of the energy that's present. Some things are for you to work out. Some things are for the universe to work out, and knowing what is yours and what's not. Some things are fated. Some things are the counterpart to another action that was taken or not taken. And It's not always your responsibility either for yourself or for other people. Well, let me not say for yourself, but specifically for other people, it's not always your responsibility to clean up that mess for them. They might have to figure it out on their own. And that goes back to what it means about the overall theme about being isolated. It's just like everybody can't help you solve problems. Like some things you have to figure out yourself, right? You have to be your own king. And that has a whole other connotation, but we're not going to get into that. However, you got to be your own king, right? You got to come and save yourself. How do you save yourself? And I feel like collectively understanding, okay, nobody's coming. Nobody's going to do nothing about this. How do you save yourself? And really being able to tap in and focus on what it means to preserve self and protect self, right? And not from a defensive or anxious place, right? But from a seat of power and a seat of knowing where the source of your power lies, okay? I hope that makes sense. I feel like I started saying something and then got thrown off by the be your own king thing, because that that means something else completely different in my world. So yes, with this upcoming new moon, I am encouraging everybody to just stay grounded and stay connected to your source. Stay connected to your creator, to the Most High, connected to your guides, connected to your ancestors, connected to your higher self. Okay? And if you do have healthy, fruitful, adaptive relationships, staying connected to that. And this will definitely teach you. So 1, your creative ability. 2, if you tap into source, you never lack, you never go without. And once you're able to trust that and move in alignment with that, everything externally starts to fall into place also. Yeah, that's what I have, because I can't remember what I said or what I didn't say. So I hope that that is helpful to you guys. We are going to move on to the full moon. Okay, that was a lot. So guys, hear me, okay? I am not doom and gloom and woe is me, everything is terrible, the whole world's going to shit. I'm not that person, but I really want you guys to understand the intensity of what is happening and what is coming, so that you can be prepared, so that you don't get caught off guard, so that you don't get caught out here lacking, okay? So that you ain't out here looking like food. Because it's a very that's the other thing that I wanted to say about 9s. It's very vulnerable. Because everything is so quick moving and everything is happening so fast, it's a very vulnerable energy. So again, think about like what at your most vulnerable would you need to be safe, be secure, be provided for, to have happiness and joy and some type of light. What brings you light even in darkness, okay? What brings you peace even in disruption? and really tuning into those things and utilizing them, actively utilizing them, okay? Actively using all of your resources such that you don't get fucked up out here. There's no other way to put it. That's it. That's all I gotta say. Okay, so on to the full moon. What's being illuminated with the full moon in Cancer on January 17th? What is being illuminated? Okay. What needs to be released with the full moon in Cancer on January 17th? What needs to be released with the full moon in Cancer? I'm going to take this card. And then a lesson to carry forward. Transformative energy. Oh, that's cute. It's very cute. Okay. Let's see. What do we have? What do we have? What do we have? Okay. So we have the Queen of Pentacles as what's being illuminated. Page of Swords for what needs to be released. And then Ten of Cups for the lessons to carry forward. Transformative energy. So this goes back to what I was saying about the new moon and being your own king and knowing that nobody is going to save you. Understanding that the traditional like avenues of support, or not even traditional, I would say the avenues of support that you've been trained to look toward, to not look toward those anymore. Not to be so like naive and in denial and green, you know. Also to not be in a state of like, oh, you know, naive on both sides. So naive in a sense that like, okay, eventually they're going to do something to help, or someone will do something to help, or something, eventually something will happen to kind of lessen the strain. Or on the flip side is, I'm just stuck here. There's nothing that I can do. There's nothing that will ever be done. So whatever, right? Just throwing caution to the wind. Either of those two things, flip side of the same coin. Avoid that. And when you notice that kind of bubbling up in you, recognize that that's a part of this anxiety, right? Anxiety and avoidance come hand in hand. And that is the two faces of avoidance showing up. And if that is the response that you're having, recognize that that's a trauma response. That's a stress response. That's not a true, authentic strategy that your soul is giving you, or that your higher self is giving you. Okay? So in knowing that the avenues that you would expect to support are not going to provide adequate support, knowing, one, like I said, the resources that you tap into, and then two, how do you share that with the community and the people around you? Because we do not have access to these expansive, cosmic, and universal resources just for our own good, right? And as we are a piece of a whole, right? We are all connected, such that you doing what's necessary to keep yourself grounded, you doing what's necessary to make sure you and your family stay good, like your immediate, like nuclear family, that extends to your greater family and your greater environment and your greater community, right? And we all have an obligation to that. And once you master what is within your control, you have a responsibility to share that with the greater community, and to also model the pathway. I was gonna say share the resources, but it's like where, right? So when I talk about being able to resource yourself, I mean like meditating and calling in that supportive energy, right? Calling in your higher self, calling in the creator, calling in the elemental energies that support you, calling in the planetary influences that support you, right? Calling in whatever deities you work with, calling in um whatever it is that helps you to stay spiritually resourced such that your physical, mental, and emotional bodies are in alignment. And then being able to share those skills with other people, utilize those skills on the behalf of other people, and then allowing yourself to be a model, like an embodiment of that, so that other people can see it. Okay? That's what I mean when I say sharing the resources and understanding that you are part of a community in general. Just understanding like it's not just you. Like this individualism and exceptionalism, like this idea that I, me, and okay, my bad, my phone went off again. But yes, this idea that you are either invincible or you are fragile, one of the two, right? And just kind of giving into that idea and not understanding yourself as a part of a whole, and understanding that your well-being and the well-being of others, there's an interdependency happening, and everyone has to do their part with that. And that does not happen with arguing and insulting and backbiting and judging and the polarity, right? Feeling like you're on polar opposite sides of things. Like you cannot get to community wellness when there's these stark contrasts, making people believe that they are separate from one another. And also that their physical body is invincible. I'm getting a lot of that with this, like just this idea of like like, oh no, I'm good, it don't matter, I'm good. Then of course there's the flip side of like, oh, woe is me. But the dominant energy that I'm getting with this Page of Swords is somebody that's just like, fuck what y'all talking about, I'm good out here. Like, for whatever reason, if it's because, oh, I'm vaccinated and I'm boosted and I wear my mask, I'm good. Or if it's, oh, I take my herbs and I exercise and I don't have no pre-existing health conditions, I'm good. Or if it's, oh, they giving y'all the virus with that vaccine, I already had COVID, I'm good. Like this idea of I'm good. Oh, I've been investing all this time. I got Bitcoin, I got NFTs, I'm in whatever market, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm good. All of that stuff that originates within like your mind about yourself, like it's a narrative, right? It's a story that is replaying. It's not necessarily the truth of yourself on a soul level. Whatever that narrative may be is not conducive to your individual functioning long term and your ability to contribute to the whole. So that type of shit, when you feel that bubbling up, you have to let that go, okay? In whatever way around that full moon in Cancer, in whatever way that becomes prominent in your mind, it's because it's time to release it, right? Like if you're noticing like certain things like leading up to the full moon trigger you to be like, I'm good, right? Really spending some time to reflect on that and understand where that comes from and how you can bring that to that narrative. How can you neutralize that narrative, one, such that you can experience the soul truth that's present and that will actually empower you. Okay, so I hope that that was helpful. I feel like this was all over the place. I don't know if I will ever do readings in this particular format again, but yeah, I hope that it's helpful, and I will see y'all for the next lunar cycle at the end of January. Y'all stay safe out there.